Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connections, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. I want to welcome Carole Franques today. She's an holistic and integrative certified wellness practitioner who strives to help her clients awaken, empower, connect, and transmute to create the life they really want. She's also a published co-author to Pathways to Vibrant Health and Well-Being, a #1 in Amazon bestseller list, and she's a contributor speaker and educator to Powerful You Women's Network. Her most recent work is the release of I Am Oracle, a beautifully designed oracle card deck that helps you support the inner spiritual journey you embark on. With that said, hello, Carole. How are you doing?
Hello, Leticia. I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. And probably the audience by now noticed that beautiful French accent you have. So I'm already, I'm an admirer of the French language. So I'm already excited.
Well, thank you. I try to hide the accent, but it doesn't work very well. So.
Well, you do a good job, but there's that exotic flair some there. I'm Latin, so the Spanish, we don't have that exotic flair.
Okay.
So in any case, Carole, it's really great to have you. We have never spoken before so that the audience knows, but you're a good, one of my good friends that actually was, I think, episode #2 on this podcast, Jan Heiss.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we always talk about people that inspire us. And that's how your name came about. And she say, oh, you probably would enjoy talking to Carole. And so that's how we got connected. So I'm very happy and thankful for Jan and making the introduction.
Same here. She's a very good friend and beautiful person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so probably she shared a little bit with you what the podcast is about, but anything I've read about you is exactly what my podcast wants to be, and it's a help to other people in their spiritual journey, keep connected. And, I've read obviously a little bit about you, and we always start with childhood. I know that you had a tough upbringing, changing countries. So I want to let you share with us whatever you want to share from your childhood years. Who were you as a kid? What did you like to do? What did you enjoy as a child?
Well, I'm originally from France, in a small village. I grew up in a small village. My parents were entrepreneurs, so they had food businesses, restaurant, catering, and a discotheque. So I grew up in that spirit of entrepreneurship. So it's pretty much ingrained in my brother, and it's all family business. And I ran my family business also here. As a child, I always wanted to. I was always trading, so I was always had my own little businesses also. So I used to make little bouquets of flowers, pick flowers from the garden, and then I would make my little bouquet and then put it in a little basket and then go sell it door to door.
Oh, that's nice.
Or I had a baking club, or I always tried to have something to bring fun into my childhood, because I think that was part of a little bit of the escape to what else was happening in the background. So what I like to bring into the fact that you mentioned me, so leaving the country, that was very impactful because we were pretty affluent, and then we lost everything, and my parents one day decided to come here. So they left, and I didn't get to go with them at the first time around. So they left the kids behind, and then they left. My brother left after that, a few months after that, and I didn't get my visa. So I got stuck behind.
Oh, wow. And how old were you at this stage?
I was 13. So
Wow, I
Um,
imagine that must have been very, very impactful for sure.
yes, I can see in retrospect how my self-esteem really took a beating, and I felt rejected, I felt abandoned, all those good things.
Well, it's probably the toughest time, in one's life is when you're becoming of age and you're learning who you are, and then you have such a an impactful thing as your parents have to leave, and you don't know, I'm sure you didn't understand very well all the dynamics. Maybe now you understand why some decisions were made.
Sure, but it was really hard. It was, and I can see how that led to. I look when you go back and look at things. I felt like I was more confident as a child, and then that, moving to this country, not speaking the language, and being completely removed from all the familiarity, that really was, you kind of have a loss of identity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you only have a brother, or there were more of you?
Not just one more brother.
So your brother went and you stayed behind for how much longer?
I was about over a year.
Okay, so yeah, that I imagine is tough. And then you moved to the States,
Right.
and then how
And
was that getting to know a new country?
well, I watched TV a lot because I wanted to pick up the accent. So,
Mhm, mhm.
because when I heard my father speak English, I was like, oh, I don't want to sound like this.
Well, you did a great job. There's
Oh,
something there, but I can say you did a good job.
thank you. And then I went to the French school the first year I arrived here. There's a French school in Bethesda, Maryland. So I did that for a year. That didn't really work out very well. So then I transferred to American high school, and that gave me freedom. The French system didn't work for me. So
That's interesting. But the French system here or there?
the French system overall, even there and here, it's too confined. It was too you have to you don't have as many choices of studies as you do. So when I transferred to American high school, it was really, I actually could take courses that I had interest in that I've never had before. So I discovered that I like accounting, or I discovered that I, kind of like economics and those kind of things. So, you have the requirements, but yet you could take few things that kind of you could play around with.
Interesting. No, I'm always fascinated because, my husband is Dutch and my family is Italian. So I always thinking about these things for my kids. That's why I ask, oh, let me know what she thinks of. Okay, that's a good point. So now you're here, you're studying. Are you enjoying the same things as a child, or in your younger years, teenager, you change your interests?
I'm completely different. I did not have any interest in spirituality or didn't know anything about it. I grew up, my Sunday afternoons were dancing at the discotheque, and I grew up working. So with my parents, we were always put to work. So we didn't really have a spiritual background. So that came into my life when by necessity. So let's just put it that way.
Okay, no, and that's fascinating, and that's part of what I enjoy doing this, because it's almost like a discovery on how something that probably you weren't that exposed, so wasn't part of your life in your younger years, has become really the center of your life, of who you are right now, for what I read.
Yes, exactly. Yes, no, it's 100%. I'm completely involved in that, and I'm fascinated by it because I've learned to really have an open mind and really be compassionate and tolerant and accepting, because it's everyone has a story, and you can't really judge, like they say, the book by its cover, because everyone has their traumas and everyone has suffered one way or the other. So it's really, I'm inspired to see the changes in people when I do work with them.
Oh, that's very powerful. So you said you work for your family business. You did that for how long? I assume that's what you were doing then as you grew up.
Yes, so I studied business in school so that I could run the business, the family business with my brother and my father. And in 2008, we dissolved the business. So I worked with my dad for my dad. That's a big difference, not with for my dad for over 20 some years. So
Wow. I can relate. I've been working for my dad, but in my case, I can say with. He's very inclusive. Thank God. He's been a good boss.
that's good.
But it's something that I cannot relate. We probably can have another podcast. I can invite you and just share, compare notes, because this is something that people think it's easier than what it is or harder than what it is, I find. It depends on the family dynamics. So, but it's never an easy, straightforward thing working for the
No,
family or with the family.
no. I think for us, we were very much asked a lot, and it's almost like we were treated as cheap labor. So,
I
to
see.
some extent, so it's a little bit sad.
I can see that. So well, and then so dissolving the company, I take it wasn't something that difficult to you for you to do, because when you say it, I think dissolving the company, oh my God, that would be so hard for us to do. Was that hard for you to do, dissolving your parents' company?
No, no, because my body was giving up. I At the end of 2008, I couldn't even lift. I was wearing braces on both arms, and my body was just exhausted. So my brother and I looked at each other like, no, we're not doing this. So my father wanted to retire to my father's retired in Dominican Republic, so we had the possibility of picking up the business, but we say we were just too tired. I mean, sometimes we were carry about a ton a day, so it was a lot of weight, a lot of physical labor.
I see. Well, and that's would that be the moment where you started your journey, or in
No,
terms of the spiritual awakening, what was the catalyst?
the catalyst was my. So I started getting. I started getting sick, and then I got worse. I got a few things that happened, and then I chose to separate. So for a couple of years, I tried to repair the marriage, but I it was either I stay or I start digging my grave. So I chose to leave, and I asked him to leave.
Hmm.
And really, what transpired in that is the most devastating moment was really the first weekend that my daughter left the house, because my daughter, having a small business allowed us to have some flexibility. My ex-husband was also an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
and so we had the flexibility to take care of our child. So we I was always there. My parents were not there for us. So I had chosen when I had a child to say, I'm having a child and I want to raise her. So I don't want to give her to someone else. So she was my priority. And that weekend, I just sat on that couch and I cried for 2 days. And there was really physical pain in my heart that I had never felt before. And after the 2 days, I said, you know what? That's not me. I can't be this. And I have to pick myself up. So that's when I started to really rebuild and do the journey.
Wow. And how old was your daughter at this time?
She was 10.
Okay, yeah, that's
So,
also a very tender age. So it's not,
yes.
I can, because I see people when they say, I'm getting divorced and it's after 22 years. And initially I would never understand that. And now I've been married now 12 years almost. And thank God so far so good. But, now I understand when you have smaller kids, I can now see why people would try to stay together, but one way or the other, if the marriage is not working, it's just you're delaying something. And if your kids are gonna get the bad part of the deal by not having the home they deserve, then I think it's just the bravest but most difficult of decisions. So
Exactly. I mean, it's one of the things that I always said is I really looked at the situation and I said, first you have to be two to be able to repair something. But then I said, if I were to stay and choose to stay, which I had done for 2 years before I made the decision, it's like, what am I showing? Am I showing her love? This is not love. And and this is not happiness. So I had to make a change. It couldn't stay the same way.
Wow, that's very brave. And then I guess that what they say, out of every bad situation comes something good. It seems that really who you became and, this passion that you found in what you're doing, you really, what that was kind of the launching pad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. Yes. And I'm happy. I'm happy.
And so you say, this is not who I am. I choose to live differently. And where were the first things that you sold the business, you ended your marriage. So how do you pick everything up, and what was the driving force, and where did you start? What was the first building block?
So what was interesting is I divorced at the same age that my mother and my grandmother divorced. Mm-hmm. So I started noticing certain patterns. And one of the things that I said is, this stops with me. And I really wanted to, there were a lot of similarities in everything that we went through. And really I wanted something different for my daughter. So I said, I'm not only working for me, but I'm doing this for her because I want her to experience something different. So it has to stop with me.
And so, so then I'm just curious. This is very brave what you did. So you started digging into spirituality because of a course you have taken, a book you have read.
Well, so I found myself alone, and no longer so I have no family here except my brother, and there's still distance between us, so I couldn't really have support, and I really felt alone. So I started talking to angels, and I used the Archangel Michael oracle to help me get through the day. And so I would pull one or two cards, and I started meditating, and so that I would have the strength to, because I didn't want my daughter to see the ugly side of things. Mm-hmm. So I really needed to, and I find myself to be very strong and resilient. So she only saw me really once cry my heart out. But otherwise, I would always be strong enough to be the mom, to be there for her. So it was really about, first I did a course on self-esteem, because that was like the number one priority that I needed to do, was to really look at that and kind of see where I needed to go with that.
That's very powerful. I'm taking everything that you're saying, and it's, it's like, oh, I have to keep interviewing her, but I'm like almost reflecting myself into everything you're saying. And I'm sure everybody out there, right? Because as you say, everybody has a story. Everybody has had a tough moment where we have done things and that maybe at that point seem a little strange, but then this has really enabled you to go to the next level and know who you are and help a lot of people, for what I see in their about section. And I'm going to put all your information. But I mean, when I was reading about the courses you've done, you are a certified advanced channeling.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Certified intuitive and quantum life coach, certified dream building coach. This is my favorite. This is awesome. I was reading this and say, wow, this existed. And I'm sure, like me, people don't know this exists. And I 100% believe that the value you give every client that you have, it's invaluable. So just the fact that to create awareness that these certifications exist, mm-hmm. I feel great about it.
Good. Well, it's. I always say, my motto is, I always say I'm my best client, because everything that I've done was really for me to become better, understand myself better, get to know me, and get to know my triggers, and get to be see what I completely, because I grew up pretty controlled. My father was very controlling, and you did what you were told to do, and there was no discussion. There was this and that. So I really, the biggest and the first really decision that I made was my divorce at age 42. So it took me a lot of long time to grow up.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of courage to also, I was trying to find my way, and whatever was resonating, then I just started doing all these things. Some things I didn't like, something I liked, so I just pursued that. Some things I felt like, something's missing there. I need to add this to that. So, and that's why now it's more of an integrative, because I feel like I have a Mary Poppins with my little bag of tricks, because I have all these tools, and I'm also have the intuition that I can tap into the energy of the person, and then spirit would also give me messages. So it's really it's a beautiful combination of everything. I mean, I love what I do.
Right, and I love. I that's what I'm saying. This is exactly. I want everybody listening to this. I already have. This podcast I started as not as a joke, but as something I didn't expect a lot from, and I already have people talking to me about changing their career completely just because they heard the episode such and such, and they tell me about the episode that inspired them to do something like that.
That's wonderful.
So the fact that you're here telling your story gets me excited, because I know there's people out there that hesitate. And I'm sure what I want to ask also is, I'm sure there were people that say you're crazy. Would the people looking at you like you were crazy about what you were trying to do?
So when I was divorcing, I ended up, for about 10 days, I was trying to sell our house, the home house, and then I was trying to buy another house. And the night of the move, I had everything on my truck, in the trucks, and I got a call that my financing to buy the house was not happening. So they asked me, where are you gonna, where do we deliver the furniture? And I said, well, I don't know. So for about 10 days, I didn't have a home, so I stayed with this friend who ended up got sick, and she went back to church, and then she started talking and kind of insulting me in some ways, in terms of who I thought I was because of the work that I was doing. So there was an interesting conversation, and I said, so I just picked up my bags and I left, because we don't need to be judged for it's what's worked for me. I'm not trying to force anything on anyone. I'm just doing this for me and understanding me and connecting. So you are, you have your opinion, and it's okay. But I just felt that I didn't need to hear that anymore. I didn't want to hear this kind of thing. So I just, packed up my bags and left.
No, and that's why I asked, because, I've had in different times of my life, people like either not believing on something I'm doing, or saying I'm crazy or something like that. And I realized not too long ago, I say, you know what, I like to kind of make the impossible possible. It's like I get a kick out of, I wouldn't say proving people wrong, but proving the fact that it's possible.
Sure.
And that if you don't open yourself to the possibility, then you only know that it's not going to happen, because it's like you don't win the lottery ticket if you don't buy the ticket. You don't win the lottery without buying the ticket. So I always ask about, and it, to me personally, it's very empowering when I hear stories like yours that, you choose a path that is making you happy. You kind of really reset your life, as you say somewhere in your webpage. I think you say, or you pose the question, do you want to keep replaying your story, or do you want to reset and create the life you truly want?
Right. So this was interesting, because I had a spirit gave me this image of a old tape recorder, and then it showed me the button replay or reset. So that's how that came about. That phrase came about is really I was given the image of the old tape recorder.
Well, it's very powerful because
Yeah.
those are the things I kept. I mean, your whole webpage, and I'm gonna share it on the show notes. Is very interested, and so there's two things. I know you're a busy person, but I'm sure that everybody's enjoying this as much as I am.
Sure.
So if anybody that's listening to us is kind of intrigued by what you're saying, and energy healer, I interview another. Probably that's how the conversation came with Jan when I told her, I interview Zach Luz. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but
No.
I interviewed him and I was very impressed by him, and the whole experience was very, very interesting. And so she said, "Oh, I know someone, that's it's like that," and that's how we got talking about you and that whole energy healing and this approach, to resetting our beliefs and the labels and all these things that we grow with that really become a limitation to ourselves.
Sure, and that I was really a product of that, and that's why, as an entrepreneur, when I always made my daughter priority. So when she left for college at the June of 2017, then I said, okay, now it's time for me to concentrate on the business. So what can I do? And I asked, and it was interesting because I get the message, okay, use your assets. So I thought, well, I went, okay, physical assets. Okay, so I could use the house to do meetups or whatever. But it was more about look at your intangible assets in terms of it's not the physical assets, but it's your knowledge, your skills, and it's been the entrepreneur. I grew up that my grandparents were entrepreneurs, my parents were entrepreneurs, my brother's entrepreneur, my ex-husband was entrepreneur. So it's kind of like I breathe that. So I say, okay, and then I did this spiritual work, which was to really, I love, doing the old belief system, really dismantling and reprogramming, because a lot of it is where you have to shift on a cellular level. It just the mental is not enough. So I decided to really create that entrepreneurial program for that. So we have 12 modules, and we even ended up adding another module on money and finances. So we have 3 modules on money and finances, because that seems like to be the biggest block also.
Yeah, and so absolutely, I totally see that house becoming more and more something with in this trend of people that help each other liberate or release these blocks, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so if anybody listening is like, oh my God, I like Carole, they go on your webpage. How do you work with them? You have like a discovery session. How can someone get started in energy healing sessions?
Well, so usually I have like a brief conversation, and then it's really about, even though you want to work on something on a mental level, your body is the driver. So I would connect energy wise, and I work with your body. I don't work with your thoughts or your mental, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And because sometimes, in order to go to what you need to be addressing, what you would want to address right now, there's other things that need to be cleared out first. So I always feel like an emotional release is kind of like the broom. It's like you're sweeping off a little bit, so you're making room. So for me, that was very valuable to do that when I was under a lot of stress during my separation. So I would be working on me, and I would be working on my daughter, because I wanted us to be able to. It's almost like it gave me a place to breathe. And then from that, depending what is your goal, then we can, we usually do have a conversation, and then I can see what I can fit as to what would be best. So sometimes we go to the body health assessment, because then we can see, do you have, we could work with the energies or the emotion, but we can also work with the nutritional. And so it's really, again, it's your body letting me as to where I need to go. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Makes a lot of sense, and I ask because I know I've been, exposed to this maybe more than other people, but I had never really engaged. But I know when I talk to other people, it's like, how do you do this? And I think some are intimidating just by, how am I going to go to an energy healer? It's like, it's the same labels that we have, that we see that this is a big deal, and it's really not. This you just try to discover yourself and understand yourself better.
Exactly. And I don't necessarily need to be with the client. So most of my sessions are remote. So it's we only agree on the day of the session, and then I do the work, you carry on your day, and then I send you a summary. And then from that we have a discussion. It's interesting with men, they don't really want to talk about what happened, but with women we usually have a further discussion. so,
I'm not surprised.
But it's okay, but some want to share and some want to understand a little bit more. So, but and then from that we can figure out, okay, it could be, someone could just have one session. I've had testimonial where I worked with a colleague who asked me to work. He referred me to some of his clients. He's a fitness trainer. And he's like, this person could use that. So he sent me the client, and then I just did one session with the person, and he's like, he tells me, he says, oh, she changed her whole life. She did what she needed to do. He knew she was stuck, but he's like, he only sees certain things. So after that, he told me, he said, she just changed her life and she's happy and she's good. So it could only take one session. Sometimes it depends how deep you want to go also, because it depends on your goal of what you're trying to achieve, and I think it's also on the amount of trauma that you've experienced or suffering that you've experienced. So
I see. Well, very, very interesting. So is there anything else that you're like right now? You say, I'm joyful, I'm happy. Is there anything that you have? I always like to ask about bucket list or things that you say, well, when in a few years I'd like to do this, or I have this dream and maybe one day I try it, or you feel that you are where you want to be?
I'm living day by day, and I follow the guidance. So if I'm called to go somewhere, then I go. If I'm called to stay here, then I'm staying here. So I'm just open to whatever comes next. I don't really necessarily have a bucket list, other than I would love one time to go to Fiji. Why not?
Of course.
My travels is because I have family in France. I have to travel there, so I go there. So it's really I don't really have a bucket list now.
Well, I think what they say that if we have expectations or things that we want and then we don't fulfill them, that's where you fall short. So probably it's a good technique.
Well, yeah, it's you have to first take care of yourself, I think, and for me the most important thing is always be at peace with myself. So learning to stay centered and learning to always stay, life is going to happen, but how am I reacting to things is I wanted peace. I lived, I grew up in chaos and hectic environment and yelling environment. So for me it's I don't need silence, but I need peace, because that's where I'm good.
Interesting. I love that, by the way. I don't need silence, but I need peace. Interesting. I love those kind of things. No, because, I'm a very social person, and sometimes people confuse the fact that I'm social, that I don't enjoy being with myself, and I enjoy being by myself tremendously. Because, I've traveled alone. I don't have a problem eating at a restaurant alone, and I enjoy it. But, I also enjoy being with a friend, just chit-chatting. And so you can be one thing and be another thing. They're not exclusive. So I take this that you just say as one of those where you say, I don't need silence, but I need peace.
Yes.
That's something I'm going to take with me. Lastly, I want to talk about your oracle cards, because
Yes.
your latest work is fantastic. And when we were planning this, I wanted to have it. And you created these beautifully designed cards that I'm assuming you designed.
Yes, I did everything, and I did have about 3 pairs of eyes to kind of look it over, but we still missed a few typos, so I apologize for that.
That's okay. I think, you don't even see the typos when you see something like this work of art. And they make a great holiday gift, by the way. So I'll have the link in the show notes. And they're designed. I just wanted to take me to a little exercise, so we also tell the audience and prompt them to show. But basically, the exercise is to take one card whenever you feel like it, right?
Yeah, so ideally, my intention is really for creating this oracle was to, it's almost like my journey in the cards to some extent. I mean, there's more coming. There's another oracle on the way, so a little bit deeper. But I thought, you have to ask questions. I had to, with my introspection, I asked myself a lot of questions, and to me, that's where the gem is, because that's then once it's out of on the surface, then you can actually address it. And then from addressing it, then you can create choices. So it's really that intention. So the I am is when you pick that card, ideally I would want for you to spend maybe 15 minutes. If you can spend a little bit more, that would be wonderful. And then just sit with that card. And then you can also connect it with the image, because the image, I kind of work backwards. I let, even with the aromatherapy that I create the intention, and then the the oil and the gemstones. I ask which one would support the intention, and it's the same with the card. I kind of let the image tell me what I wanted to become, and then from that the word came, and then from that the statement came, and then the question came. So.
No, it's beautiful. And, it really has helped. And I don't know if that's why I say, I don't know if we're supposed to use it that way, but me and my husband always at night, we reflect upon the day. So lately I've been saying, pick one.
Okay.
So he picks one and I pick the other. And we just, helps you also get talking.
Yes, exactly. That's really a conversation piece.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a conversation piece, and also bonds you, and you kind of get to see also what the other person is thinking, or what has been bothering them, or maybe something that you miss through the hecticness of every day.
Exactly. And I think it's also helping show the more vulnerable side of ourselves, which is a beautiful side to show, because oftentimes we're afraid to be vulnerable. But that's where also you have, I don't have the right word, but that's where you would, you have to come from, because the vulnerability is actually a strength. It's not a weakness. To me, that's where the beauty is of you. The beauty of your heart is there.
Beautiful. Well, I definitely have enjoyed my Oracle cards so far. I haven't had them for so long, so I'm still exploring them, but definitely. And I love that the holiday season is coming, because I personally always feel a little bit more introspective during the holidays. So definitely will prompt anybody listening to this, if you want to give something cute to yourself, something that will help you in this journey. You should check it out. And Carole, I mean, you've been fantastic. I really want to thank you to making the time, because I know you're very busy, but this conversation is leaving me with a lot of nuggets of wisdom. And I know I will hear people telling me about this episode in particular.
I'm much appreciative of the opportunity to share, and we learn by sharing, I think. So, my story is not different. It's just a different picture from someone else's, but the introspection gave me a little bit of wisdom for me to inspire others, I hope. So,
well, you have inspired me, so I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye.
And until the next time.